So yeah, pretty depressing, right? This is only 6 years old, and the paint has corroded off, and the mount has corroded completely through. Um, this is very disappointing. I didn't install it in the boat. It was actually installed from the dealer where I purchased the boat from. And about a year ago, I noticed that the paint was starting to chip off, and eventually it started getting worse. And then a couple weeks ago, I went ahead and I poked it with a screwdriver, and sure enough, it went right through and hit the hull. So it was time to replace it. So I went ahead and I ordered a new one, and I installed it. And the next thing I forgot to do or order was the bushing kit. So this video, I'm going to show you how to install the new hardware kit. I ordered it from Amazon. It came in a couple days. It was about 40 bucks. So you're also aware there are two kits. There's one for the blades and there's also one for the sportsman's. So make sure you choose your application. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the battery switch on, which turns my power pole hydraulic pump on. Let's make sure the light's flashing. And I'm going to go ahead and deploy my power pole down until it just touches the ground. So in the box comes all the hardware you need, all the bushings, the spacers and washers, and the instruction kit. I'm going to say this, power pole, your instruction kit is awesome. I've done this 2 or 3 times, and every time I go back I look at the instructions and I never have a problem. As long as you follow these instructions, you should be fine. So this video is just to support you a little bit so you have more of a visual. So first things first, you're going to need 7/16, a 1/2 inch, and a 9/16 wrench. And also you're going to need some sockets. 6-point sockets are needed. Try not to get any 12-point because the old hardware is definitely rounded out. It's corroded down, so the 6 points are definitely going to grip the nut and the bolt a lot better. The next thing I do is I always lay out all the hardware, so I know what I have, what's in this kit, and the biggest thing is to make sure that you have everything that you need. The next thing I do, I actually look at the instruction manual and I actually put together each individual bolt, nut, and washer space all in a row, just like that. It definitely keeps everything in order for me. Do it however you want to. I'm going to recommend this is the best way because I always start from the top and I go right down to the bottom. I'm not missing anything. I'm not looking for anything. I already have everything in one place. Just makes it a little bit easier. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to replace the hardware that's holding the power pole spike. It is the 7/16 heads. So you're going to need a 7/16 socket and a wrench or 2 sockets. It makes it easier for you. And you loosen them up, pop them out. And then also make sure that you do grease the new hardware going in. I'm using a Teflon grease, but any kind of wheel bearing grease will probably just be fine. And also remember to put the hardware back in the way you took it out. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the bolts that hold the hydraulic pump on. The reason why I'm doing that is because you want to be able to move the power pole, and right now you can't move it because it's locked down. So once you take the hardware out, you can go ahead and kind of let the pump hang there. And also when you are removing it, take notice of what side the black bushings are on, whether the longer one is on one side or the other side. So Once that's loose, you can go ahead and move the power pole around. And I go ahead and I just start from the top and I go down to the bottom of the hardware replacement. Okay, so when you're removing all this hardware, keep notice of what's being removed so you know how it goes back into place. Now, we have already set the hardware already of how it's supposed to be according to the instructions that it comes with the kit. Just remember how it comes out. I'm using the pick to pop the old stuff out, and I'm greasing everything up. I'm going to put grease on the bushings. I'm going to put them onto the power pole, and that also helps keep them in place because it is aluminum. As soon as you pulled it, it's pretty tight. You're going to have to kind of work it in. So sometimes it might be a good idea to have an extra hand with you, so somebody can hold the hardware while you're sliding it in place. But once you get everything in place and the bolt goes in, you go ahead and just put the nuts on. I put a couple turns on. I don't tighten everything down until I'm completely done. The reason why I do that is just so everything kind of moves for me. So after I put the hardware back into place on the upper, I go ahead and remove the lower, take all the bushings out. Now once that's out, it's easier for me to replace the bolt and the bushing, everything that's on the mount side also. So I'm going to go ahead and do that one first, and then we're going to go ahead and put it back into place, and of course put the bushing and hardware on the top side. All right, so the hardware's now in place. I'm just going to go ahead and just snug it up a little bit. I want to make sure I have good movement there. After I tighten up, you don't want to over tighten these because it won't move. So make sure there's just a tiny bit of resistance. Just snug them up. And of course, just make sure that the nut itself, the nylon locking, is around the threads, so it's all the way in. That'll let you know that you are on far enough. All right, so the hardest part of the whole job is this. So make sure you look at how your lines are run, and when you pull the hardware out, to make sure that you put the correct spacers back in on the right side. Of course, you match the correct spacers. There's multiple sizing that they give you. Just take the old ones off, go ahead and match them up with the new ones that you have. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to install the hardware in the upper part before I install the RAM back onto the lower section. So don't forget the bushings on the inside. They're going to be a little tight. Put a little bit of grease around them, and then you work them in. Just make sure they don't slip out. So after this last bolt is installed, you want to go ahead and start snugging up all the hardware down, especially before you install the RAM, because you want to actually rotate the power pole up and down. Make sure you have good movement and nothing is binding. So again, make sure you put the correct spacers in on the right side, of course, and tighten everything down. And then after that, go ahead and operate the power pole. Make sure that everything is functioning correctly.